Good morning and welcome to the live stream of St. Mark's Episcopal Church here in Mystic, Connecticut. It's a beautiful Wednesday morning here. Just a few more days of school, of remote school happening here in the Mystic area. And then the long days of summer to come. I am looking forward to going outside with my kids this afternoon. But before we do that, we're going to have a conversation on our live stream today about a topic that I've gotten a lot of questions about over the last couple of months. And so I figured instead of trying to just answer those questions over and over again, I would have an interview with the person who is responsible for most of the work around this question. The question specifically is, how are we making our choir anthems here at St. Mark's during our closure because of the COVID-19 pandemic? And fortunately, I am very well acquainted with the person who has been doing a good chunk of the work to make those choir anthems happen. And that is my spouse, Leah Thomas. And so I'm going to bring her in now. These choir anthems are a team effort between you and the choir members and David Tubbs, our organist, all sending in stuff for you to work with. So we're going to go ahead and just dive into that. Well, why don't you first set it up with where did this idea come to do these choir anthems in the first place? And how long have we been doing them?
You know, I knew you were going to ask me that, and I have a terrible memory for details. I feel like it was a very organic process, because when we started this whole thing, it was, we're closing the church for 2 weeks and we'll see you in 2 weeks, right? We know how that went. So I think we didn't really get going until Palm Sunday, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't think we did a choir anthem those first 2 weeks because it was so provisional at that point.
Right. And you said you wanted music for Holy Week, because Palm Sunday is the beginning of Holy Week. And I don't think I was really very involved at the beginning. You and David were talking about it. And I think when you started to do the mixing on Adobe, I was interested. So you started to show me. And I think I helped with that first choir anthem. I'm not sure if I did it or not. Do you remember?
You know what? It feels like about 10 years ago, even though it was 2.5 months. Yeah, so the program that we're using to create these choir anthems is called Adobe Audition, which is part of Adobe Creative Suite. And I have a lot of experience using Adobe Audition because of my podcast. And so when we started thinking about how to do these anthems, we decided to use Adobe Audition, which is a pretty heavy-duty computer program. And you picked it up really quickly.
Oh, it was fun. It was really fun.
So on Easter Sunday, we actually did a video anthem, and we decided that was a very special thing for Easter specifically.
Yes. I think that added a level of stress for everybody, because I had them give me the music file, because Audition is an audio program, not video. And so we simply submit audio files. But because the video program we were using is not quite as robust and couldn't strip the audio, and I couldn't edit it to the detail I wanted, we had them submit both video and audio. And so I created the audio file in Audition and imported it to the video program, which was Adobe Rush.
Yeah, so that's a pretty complicated system because you had the videos of people singing.
Right.
You took the audio away from those videos.
No, we started trying to do that, but Rush doesn't have the ability to split it out and then export it.
Okay. Well, or even if it might have it, we just couldn't figure it out one way or the other. So you actually had them submit two different things for that. Anyway, so the upshot of that is the Easter Sunday anthem was very cool, but very complicated.
It was a lot of work.
Yeah. So at that point, by Easter, we knew that we were in this for the long haul. And we needed to figure out a way to create a weekly choir anthem and have it not be as complicated as Easter Sunday. So at this point, we actually had quite a number of our choir members really excited about continuing to sing, even if they weren't able to sing together.
It's a wonderful thing to be able to, from their perspective, they get a file and they record their part and they don't hear the finished product until I'm done. Mm-hmm. But it's still, I think, a rewarding experience to then get that final file and hear themselves singing with everybody else. I can't really speak for them, but that's what I would imagine. And for me, really rewarding to be able to layer it and then to see how all the individual parts come together. And that makes us feel like we're still a choir, I think.
Right. So let's walk through just sort of step by step how this works, because that's the broad strokes, but I think the actual process is really interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll begin with our organist, David Tubbs, music director, David Tubbs, picking an anthem for a Sunday. And he's been using what's called the Choral Public Domain Library. The important phrase in there is public domain, because it allows us to put things on YouTube. And then, so he picks out an anthem. What is the next step after picking the anthem?
After he picks the anthem, he needs to send me an audio file. So he records his piano part, and he does a great job of recording it to a very steady metronome mark. So it's very rhythmically steady the entire time, because that's kind of key to layering this all together. So he sends me a piano file. He also sends me piano files of the other audio, the other voice parts, so that people want to hear it with piano, they can. And I've been using it to send a bass part sing-along out, which is the next step of the process. So he sends all that to me, and he sends me the PDF. We sort of streamlined it so that he sends me everything now, and then I send everything out to the choir, because we found that was just easier for everybody.
Okay, so you get a PDF of the anthem, the music notes. Then you also get audio files of a piano playing the music. Right. And then what do you do with those piano audio files? What are you creating that you then send out to the choir?
Oh, this is the fun part. We discovered this after a couple weeks of doing the anthem, where we would just send the music, the written music, and the piano part to people. But we, as a choir, we learn our music singing together. We don't usually learn our music without other voices around us. And so actually, it wasn't my idea. Some of the other choristers came up with the idea of singing together, even though we're apart. And so I started creating sing-along tracks. And so David gives me the piano part, and then I plug it into the program, and then I record my voice singing all of the parts except the bass part. And so I send out a recording of just the soprano part with the piano underneath, and just the alto part, just the tenor part, and the bass part. If we take it up an octave, I'll sing it. And if we don't take it up an octave, then I use the piano part to put that out. And so what they're hearing is me singing along over the piano part, but it's lined up to the very specific one piano part that we're all recording to, so that everything is rhythmically correct.
Wow. So we have our steps. Then we have David picks an anthem, plays the piano part. Sends it to you. And then step 2 is you create vocal tracks based on the piano, which you then send to the choir members. And then now they have those files. What do?
So they have the music in front of them, and they have an audio file. I'm actually not 100% sure what they do, but what I imagine they do is they have a recording device, probably their phone. So you could use voice memos or any similar voice recording device. And then something else is playing. I don't know if they could use the same device, probably not, is playing the audio in their ear. And so they have headphones on playing what they hear. And so the audio recorder only picks up their voice, but they're singing along with the track. And so it lines everything up. So that's their job. And then they send it to me. And the beauty of the program is this program can accept any audio file.
Really any type of file, yep.
Any type. So it doesn't matter what they use to record themselves with.
So you're getting tracks then from several of our choir members, and a couple of them are actually sending you multiple voice parts, right?
Most people send me multiple voice parts, yeah. I usually get 2, sometimes 3 from a person. So we take our choir of, I think we started with 5 people from our own choir, and we practically double ourselves, which is fun.
And then, so speaking of that real quick, we have also inherited some choir members, right?
Yes. Yeah, word got out. And I think it started with one of our choir members' sisters. And then I think choristers from her own choir. I'm not 100% sure if they're all part of the same choir or not, but they're sort of stranded choir members who don't have a virtual choir of their own. And we're singing beautiful music, and it's part of a community that, you know, we're all part of. So we've picked up another 5, maybe 6. I think I've lost track. We've doubled the size of our choir, people-wise.
Yeah,
and
that's
even those
really
people
wild.
Are sending me multiple tracks.
Yeah, it's
so,
pretty cool.
You know,
It's neat. It's neat to have been able to invite folks from other places than St. Mark's to be part of this, because they want to sing, and that's really neat. All right, so now David has made the audio tracks for the piano. You have made the voice tracks for people to sing along with. And I just want to just clarify that step. The reason that you're not just sending the piano part to people is that it's easier for somebody to sing along to another voice than it is to sing along to a piano? Oh,
yes, absolutely. Because you can't always pick out your part. David plays all 4 parts together. And it's just easier. We're used to singing to hearing each other.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Easier for somebody else sing your part.
Right. I know that in my own experience, before I learned how to sing myself, if I wasn't sitting next to my best friend Kyle, I was out to sea. But if I was sitting next to him, I could at least do what he was doing, to the best of my ability. Yeah, okay.
Right, we all lean on each other in the same way. And then there's blending and speaking the phrases, which piano doesn't always.
Okay, so they can hear you the way that you sing a phrase. They can match the singing of the phrase to that, because that's a big part of music is how loud and soft to be, which the piano isn't necessarily going to translate. And those are the types.
I think piano does a better job with dynamics than I do, but
but those are the types of things that you would have been working on in rehearsal,
right?
Yeah,
which we don't have.
All right, I'm just going to say that for those of you who are in the chat, if you have any specific questions for Leah about this process that we haven't covered, please let us know, because it is about a 45 second delay between what we're talking about and what you're hearing. So it takes a little bit of time for your questions to appear on my screen. But we'll move to the next step, because you can see that this is a fairly complicated process, but we've gotten to the point where it's nice and regimented, at least.
Right.
And so let's say that you get the audio tracks from David at the beginning of the week. You then send out the file. In a perfect world, we're sending out the files to the choir members on Tuesday, right?
That's my new goal.
The new goal is Tuesday. And then you are hoping to get those back by when?
I give them the rest of the week. It used to be Friday, but now that I work more on Friday afternoons, I told them this week by Saturday morning. And then I spend... but the sooner they send them, so I can drop them in during the week.
Yeah, because you can actually, as they come in, you can drop them in. All right. So here's the part we've all been waiting for. Why don't you share your screen and to show people what this looks like? Because as somebody who is watching this, I need to invite you to share your screen again, because we started the Zoom call a second time. 1 second, folks. Let me just get this. Let me just get this back so that she can share her screen. 1 second.
Uh-oh.
All right, you're good to go.
Uh-oh.
What happened?
I'm looking for you. There you are. Got it.
Okay. All right, so Leah's going to share her screen. She's going to show you what Adobe Audition looks like.
Okay, that's what it looks like without anything in it.
Yeah, let's open up last week's file.
This is a finished file. This is last week's.
All right, and I'm going to make it a little bigger so folks can see it. Let's do
back to the beginning of
that one. There we go. Okay. So now we are seeing your screen now, and we can see. So what are we actually looking at right now?
Okay, so what we're looking at, last week we did a big thing for Pentecost where we actually added instruments. So what we're looking at is the individual tracks that people have sent me, all put together on top of each other, stacked like a cake. So down here, can you see my mouse pointing? This thing? Or does that not share? Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh, no, we're good. We can see your mouse.
Oh, you can see my mouse. Okay. Yep. So down here at the bottom, I usually put David's part. So this is David's piano part here. And then I just layer the parts on top. So this was me playing the cello. This is Martha playing the violin and Rennie playing flute. And so all the instruments I grouped together down here at the bottom. And then I just put everybody's, sorry for anonymity, I actually label everybody's parts so I can keep track of who I've already put in. So we have all the choristers' individual parts. And then these are the audio files. And so I've sort of zoomed in a lot so you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 voice parts and 4 instrument parts. And then this last track down here is just the master track.
So 18, we have literally 18 voices singing in this choir, which is normally 5 or 6. So we've tripled.
It's not 18 people.
Well, no, I said 18 voices. I said 18 voices specifically. So we have 18 voices. It's about 10 people, 8 to 10 people.
Right.
So maybe you could scroll over a little bit and to show us what we're looking at then. As the track continues, you can zoom in. You all can see the audio wave files is what they're called.
Right. Yep. And so I have all these files, and you can see everybody on top of each other. So as I go over here, you can see how they kind of all line up. And the thing that I learned this week is how to use all these vertical lines you see.
Yeah, the markers to line stuff
to really line up a part. And what's really cool is you can zoom in as much as you want.
Yep.
So what I'm doing right now is just zooming. I'm going to go back to that really crowded place over there. This was a really tricky entrance.
Entrance of the music, you mean? People starting to sing a new phrase.
Yeah. It was really hard for everybody to sing together here. And so I'll just zoom into a couple parts. So what I can do is put a marker here, and then I can line up everybody's entrances right here. And so I can cut and paste. So I cut and paste the part down here. And so I can see where, so this ruler up here tells me where the beats fall, and I can just put the marker right on there, and then I can line up the wave file, the video file, so that, or the visual wave, so that it all lines up the same point. And that was really great, and that made the Come Holy Ghost really very tight.
Interesting, yeah. Those are the types of things you can do in sort of post-production or production of this that you wouldn't be able to do live if you were all singing it live. And of course, singing live is wonderful and has its own character, and yet when you're making a video or an audio file, you're able to do some of this more editorial work to get things all lined up together.
I was thinking about why I do this, because it's our choir. We want it to be our choir. We want it to be like we're there. So how finicky do I really need to be? And I don't move things very much. But the thing that you don't get when everybody sends in an individual file is you don't get to listen to how you fit into the whole. So this is kind of how I replace that. Okay. We don't get to blend with each other. We don't get to sync with each other. When we're singing in a choir, we have like little antennae on our heads, and watching and listening to everybody else. And so that helps us to sync our entrances.
So you're doing that kind of virtually
mechanically
with the program. Got it. That makes sense.
After the fact.
Sure.
So here we go. Here we go to the end of the file, and then we all end nicely together.
So why don't you go ahead and just play us a little clip of that, and it'll just, unfortunately we're not able to play this through. You're just going to hear this through Leah's speakers, but that's okay.
Do you want me just to play it out of Adobe?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. From the top or from where everybody comes in?
Sure, when they come in, right there. Okay, go ahead and pause it. And now just solo one of your tracks, just so people can hear what it sounded like when you sent out a track to somebody, which was just...
Oh, good.
No, you can just hit solo. Hit the S is solo.
Oh, thank you. See, I'm still learning. There's always new things to say. No, I don't send out just my track, though. I send out me and David.
Okay, you can I think you can hit solo on his as well.
On David, okay.
Yeah. So this is what they hear. Somebody wanting to record the soprano track will have just heard this.
I'm picking a different one.
Okay, great. And then they take those tracks, or the track that you send them, they record to, and then they send it back to you, and then you put it into this. And after 6 or 7 hours of editing, this comes out.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
It's getting to be longer and longer because I'm getting better and better at this program. So I'm learning more how to finesse it a little bit and just make sure the parts really do line up.
Yep.
But the results are beautiful. It's a wonderful thing to hear.
Yeah, I think we might make a little choir album at the end of this.
I think we should.
Of all of these anthems. I think it'd be great to do that. All right, you can go ahead and stop the share so we can get back to our picture here. Again, if anybody has any questions of Leah about these anthems, please let us know.
We have a choir party planned for post COVID-19 already in the mix, and I think we should invite all of our guest choristers.
That would be great.
We could actually meet in person. It would be really nice.
Yeah, because right now several of these people you only know through their voices.
Yeah, they're in Massachusetts. All the guests, I think, are in Massachusetts. We're crossing state borders here.
That's great. Any other things you wanted to say about the putting these anthems together that we haven't said?
Let's see. I just kind of, I think I would, I'll make it a sales pitch. How's that? I think we all feel probably a little self-conscious when we record ourselves. But then I'm always telling the choir that the parts and the whole are different, that when we layer all our choir parts together, we sound sort of bigger than our individual parts. So even I didn't really want to play my solo over the internet. But together we sound amazing. And I know probably that that's a thing that holds people back from maybe participating. Nowadays, as a virtual choir, we're not together as much as we want to be. But we're a lot more accessible to those who don't want to come to Thursday night choir rehearsals.
That's true, yeah.
So if you are out there and you are missing your choir, or you've always wanted to sing with us and you haven't, been able to join us on our weekly rehearsals, this is actually, from your perspective, not terribly difficult to process. Just listen to a file, sing along, read the music, and then you just text it to me or email it to me.
Right.
And you can be part of our choir. How's that?
That's great. That's a good sales pitch, because I know that we have other folks in our parish that like to sing.
Yes.
So anybody is welcome to join this effort. It's one of those things where we have a deficiency in one thing, but it shows a positive nature in something else. Where we're not able to come together, so we've come up with new ways to do things, and it's opening up some doors that we didn't have open before. We have gotten a couple of questions in. I don't know if this is a tongue-in-cheek question from Rennie, but she's asking if you can edit in unified final consonants.
I just figured out maybe kind of how to get there. So yes, we're in addition to the entrances, and literally just figured this out last week, in addition to the entrances, if there's an ending T or TS, I try very hard to line those up as much as possible.
The best way to do it is just to cut all of but one of them. Just have one person sing it, because it'll sound just as good as everybody singing it. That's actually really... My choir director in college used to say, if you don't know where to end, just don't.
Just don't.
Just let your vowel kind of trail off and you'll be fine, because somebody else will put the T in the right place.
Exactly.
All right. And then looks like Tom Redette is asking, are you balancing EQ or putting in any reverb? Any of that kind of stuff?
I haven't put in any reverb. I haven't figured that out yet. If you know how to do that, you can tell me how.
But you are balancing.
But I do balance. Yeah, I watch the little things on the side and I make sure that nobody is significantly louder or softer than anyone else. And I just make sure that the parts balance. And I sometimes also adjust volume. So if we need a little bit of a diminuendo and we don't really have one, I'll add one in. Or if a part needs to come out.
Diminuendo being?
Getting softer.
Getting softer.
Softer, louder. Or if I just need more soprano in this one area, I'll just bring the sopranos up for this part or something. I always need more soprano.
Well, great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk us through this process, because it's a really amazing thing that you and the choir are doing with David and now several people who aren't even members of St. Mark's. So thank you so much for all of your work in that area. And I look forward to hearing what you guys are doing for this week.
Oh, it's going to be great. And we could use a bass part, Tom.
Yeah. Any basses out there in YouTube land want to give us a bass part? We could use it this week. All right. Well, thanks so much for being with us, Leah.
No problem.
All right. And that's going to do it for YouTube live stream today, St. Mark's Live. Really glad that you were able to stick with us while we worked out those technical difficulties at the beginning of the live stream in order to have a really interesting conversation about putting together our choir anthems. Please do join us this Sunday at 9 a.m. right here on our YouTube channel for our Trinity Sunday service, as well as our congratulations to our high school graduates. That's happening this Sunday, 9 a.m., right here on YouTube Live. In the meantime, if you want to send us some choir parts for our anthem, be in touch and we'll get you the files so you can be part of that wonderful group of people making music still here at St. Mark's. But until this Sunday, God bless and be well.